नमस्कार। आज के प्रोग्राम में पधारे हुए माननीय शिक्षण मंत्री श्री चुडासमा साहब, मैडम विभावरी बेन, हमारी राज्य कक्षा की मंत्री श्री शिक्षण, हर्षद भाई, एमिनेंट एक्सपर्ट्स जो अलग अलग जगह से आए हैं. Today this is a very interesting topic that we have taken the webinar on, and it is actually the need of the hour. When Honorable PM, when he was the CM of the state, he had set up two important universities, and that was Teachers University and Children University. And one of the most important reasons why this was done was he wanted a great change in the education to come, especially the education of children. And that's why he said we have to have good teachers if we have to build up this generation, if we have to build up future generations. And also we have to get into the issues of children and the issues of basically learning for them, as well as their development, their growth and nutrition, and that's why the Children University was set up. Teachers University has been taking up a large number of programs in the last few years. They have also one of the pioneers in taking up the integrated B.Ed program, which is doing quite well. And I'm happy to put on record here that IAS has been doing very well in the field of education. I will share some of my ideas on teaching and learning in the current perspective. I have always believed, and I very sincerely believe, even now, that curriculum is not education. Education is not about curriculum. I can tell you my own example that I did not take any formal education till the age of 5. And the initial 3-4 grades I did at home only, and I was taught by my teacher, by my mother, who was herself illiterate. So she taught me whatever she knew and whatever she had learned out of school, at home, because of her desire to learn. And she taught me all that, and then she put me in the school in the 2nd grade. What I'm trying to tell is curriculum is not education. But in the modern education system, we have a lot of emphasis on curriculum. To the extent that the only intention of teachers in school and even in colleges is to finish the curriculum. Syllabus pura kar do. Now, syllabus pura kar do becomes an end in itself. Actually, syllabus or curriculum is a means to a good education. But what happens is that it becomes an end in itself. And we get into that typical mean and end conflict, where the means become the ends, as a result of which we lose the larger end that has to be inside, and that is the education as a whole, holistic education, developmental education, education that is aimed at the development of the child. Because of this overemphasis on curriculum, what happens is that teachers are spending their time on doing the syllabus, doing the question answers, and exam focus. That, okay, you learn the syllabus, you learn the question answers, you learn how to write, you learn how to get good grades, and do it. When my younger son was in 3rd standard, then studying in some school, and then I knew that his level of knowledge was not that much. And today, of course, he's done very well. But at that time, I could make out that he doesn't think like his skills are not grader, which I thought that he should be having given his potential. So, and his marks used to be in class very, very good. So whenever I would teach, I have never micromanaged my children. But then whenever I would do that, and at that age you have to do. So I said, I asked him, that if you don't study, you don't own up your skills, if you don't own up your communication, how are you going to get good marks? मार्क्स रहने दो, मार्क्स में ले आऊंगा, मुझे आता है कि मार्क्स मुझे लाना आता है. I know how to get marks. So that is undesirable education. And immediately then I shifted him to another school, and that's how he focused on, and some school which focused on the concepts, on the learning per se. And that's how he then got his basics clear and and I got the confidence that now he's ready for life. What I will point out, creativity and competence. These are two very important aspects of education. So education has curriculum, competence, and creativity. But somehow in that maze of curriculum, we leave the creativity and competence. And we want the child to learn what we are teaching as per the format that we are giving. The answer has to be given in the same format that we are saying, nothing more, nothing less. If the teacher has taught, and if there is an apple that has to be drawn and painted in the class, in the exam, it has to be red. Child is not allowed to paint the apple green or yellow. Apple can be green or yellow. Why not? The child is not allowed to think. It's not that he is motivated to think, but motivation बहुत दूर का बात है. He's not allowed to think. As soon as he wants to think out of box, he's curtailed. And there his creativity starts getting bound in a box. And it gets stifled. Similar is the competence. Now, so many speakers, Madam Sampat also talked, other speakers also talked about the coping skills, about the life skills, about the soft skills, about the skills that can get him or her a livelihood. All these skills, they come in competence. What is my theoretical learning if I don't know these skills, if I don't know how to cope up, if I don't know how to live a happy life? And that is what is coming at the moment right now. If you do not teach these students communication, if you do not teach him how to cope up with the things in life, you do not teach them psychology principles, you do not teach them the way to manage stress, you do not, and these things come very subtly. You don't have a set, you cannot go into that curriculum maze to find an answer which is not curriculum bound. This is something, both creativity and competence cannot be dealt by curriculum. And that's why our teachers find a very easy way out. This is difficult, so leave it. So when we study, what do we do? Okay, these are the 10 chapters. Out of these 10 chapters, these are the only, I will get a choice for 2. So these 2 I'm finding most difficult, so leave it. I will not study. Believe me, I did it in civil services and I suffered because of that. Of course, I got into civil services because of different, I did very well in others. But the only chapter that I left because of choice, and I used to find that very, very abstract. And that 2 questions came from that, and I could not help it. So this particular habit of teachers and of students that, okay, this is difficult, this is abstract, leave it. Let's manage the others. So curriculum is very easy. It's very cut and dried. Okay, I can manage it very easily. But creativity and competence, no, this is very difficult. How am I going to teach them? Because they have not learned this way. Teachers have not learned this way. Teachers have not been taught how to do this. Teachers have not been taught how to cultivate, how to build up creativity and competence among students. So they themselves don't have creativity and competence, let me tell you. How are they going to impart it to the students? And for the student, there are 2 important role models. Parents at home and teacher at school, in the class. So if the teachers don't know it, students don't know it. If students don't know it, the society doesn't know it. So that's a very important task that I think IIT has right now. And this has become very prominent because when we are doing this COVID Kiran helpline, so many things that are coming up. People are not easy to cope up with so much of time. And people are not able to cope up with this uncertainty, with the things that are happening in a different way, the new normal that we are calling it. So as a result of which it is becoming these values, the ability to think, ability to cope up, ability to manage stress, ability to understand things with awareness. All these things have to be have now surfaced. Another thing that I would like to emphasize is on learning outcomes. Now, whenever we say what is learning outcome, you put the curriculum, okay, the child should know up to A to Z, the child should know tables up to 10, the child should know this. Is this the learning outcome that we are looking at? No. If this is a learning outcome we are looking at, sorry, we are going somewhere wrong. Number one is that learning outcomes cannot be uniform for every child. They have to be different. Every child is different. Every child is going to be a different citizen of the society. We cannot have same learning outcomes. And even if you have to make some uniformity, create some uniformity out of that, at least it should have a huge component of creativity, of skills, and of the individual variation in learning. There is somebody who's good at art, you cannot teach them numbers. Somebody who's good at numbers, you cannot teach them art. I never learned history because I was not made to do history. But then, when I started understanding history in the way I would understand science, history became so nice to me. The way history was taught to me in the school, I used to hate history. And I could never understand why you have to remember that Battle of Plassey was in this particular year, and it was fought between these people, and why Battle of Haldigati, Battle of Falana 1, 2, 3, and especially again when you come to Western philosophy, same king, King Edward 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't understand which one was what, and you have to just cram up. So I used to hate history like anything. And the chapter in civil services that I left was also pertaining to history. This was the history of public administration, which because of my conditioning into that part of history, I could never ever, like it. So what I'm trying to say is I used to hate history. Why? History is so simple, and it was very later in life. When I started experiencing history, when I started realizing, when I started traveling, and when I started experiencing the monuments and what lay behind the monuments, was a huge history. When I started understanding Indian philosophy and the history behind it, and when I started understanding World War I and World War II and the history behind it, then you know what is the relevance of history. History is not the dates and who fought with whom and who succeeded whom and who came after whom. History is what happened in that era, how it shaped the destiny of that era, and how it also shaped the future. So that analytical aspect, the lessons that we learn from history, how they changed the scenario, that is what is more important. But nobody ever teaches that in history. The focus of the history is in curriculum, as a result of which dates, persons, and a person like me a science person gets totally lost in that. So you have to get into, as part of learning outcome and as part of approach to teaching, we have to get into these basics of teaching. And this analyzing each subject, developing analytical skills and critical skills is much, much more important than cramming up things. What you cram, you're going to forget. But what you understand through critical analysis, you're going to remember forever. Another thing is the contemporary, what is more important is how it's going to be, now education is going to change. A lot of e-learning is going to come. Now, initially in the Gurukul tradition, we had the oral tradition. When there was nothing put in black and white, the teacher used to teach through the oral tradition, through Shabda testimony. Now the time, then when the paper got invented and people realized that they should put it into record, the manuscripts started coming in. Again, the manuscripts were taught with the help of words. They were explained with the help of words. Then another tradition came, which came to books. That everything started getting from manuscripts. They started getting replicated and in the form of books. So that was a new paradigm shift that came, and we saw the books. Now it's the world of online. Now the content has to be online, because you would have seen that a child at the age of 1 is very comfortable operating the mobile, but doesn't want to open the book. So this is, if a generation is moving towards some direction, in some direction, if the world is moving in some direction, we have to move in that direction in education also. A lot of e-content has to come. A lot of, not only e-content, but how we can do research using the digital technology. That has to be built in, because that's where they're going to learn now. And if the child doesn't know how to operate a tablet, or they know because that's something intrinsic that is coming. But even then, what is more important is that they can do it systematically. How to do research, what all to Google में सब कुछ मिलता है. What all to filter करके किसको बाहर निकालना है और किसको रखना है. That is what is more important. So that they should know कि ये मेरा internet से content आ रहा है. That's how I understand. This is the way I understand that this is authentic, this is not. WhatsApp is sending so much of fake information. They have to know what makes some information authentic. How do you ascertain that this information is authentic? That has to be learned by students. Because so much information is coming in the online world, in the virtual world. So that has to be very important focus. And another focus is on the classrooms. A lot of social distancing coming in. We have to focus on health, hygiene, and the size of the class. The size of the class has to further go down. With social distancing, we cannot have classes of 60, 50, 70, 100. It has to come down to the ideal, that is 20, 25, 15, 20, 25 in a room, depending on the size of the room. That also becomes very important now. Not only the ideal size for the teacher to teach, but also the size of the classroom. So with all these observations, thank you, Harshad Bhai and others, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this platform. Thank you very much.